Causeway, a US soldier suffers a traumatic brain injury while fighting in Afghanistan and struggles to adjust to life back home. I'm not gonna lie, Jennifer Lawrence was a actor of interest when I was going into this going, yeah, this'll be good. But for me, Brian Tyree Henry, man, ever since Bullet Train, I've just gone, yeah, that's a dude I'm gonna be following, and I'm really glad I did. I'm glad I checked this out. Let's get into it. So Lila Neugebauer, how do you pronounce her surname? Neugebauer. She directs this, and I have to say, ever since seeing Made, a Netflix TV series that I really wanted a second season for, I've been looking forward to what else she would direct or produce or whatever she gets her hand on creatively. Because Made is one of the most harrowing, riveting and real stories that my wife and I sat through. We were just emotionally wrecked from that series. So coming into this, I was wondering how emotionally draining this would be. And it is somewhat. However, this film is really a story of just how to cope with certain things. When something happens medically to you, how do you cope with that? What do you do? And what we get is two characters really that are both broken. We think it's about just the Jennifer Lawrence character, Lindsay. She comes back from Afghanistan and she meets this mechanic, James, who's played by Brian Henry, and he is pretty much as broken as she is. And so this friendship forms, and it's the most beautiful, wonderful, natural friendship I've seen on screen, and believable at the same time. So when they're bearing their heart out with each other, but in a realistic, the dialogue is so real. It's not quirky, it's not funny, it's just something that somebody would say to each other while having a beer or a spliff or in a pool. It just feels like the dialogue would naturally occur that way or go that way. So when there are emotional moments, they hit you real. When they fight, as friends do sometimes, it feels raw. When they are joyous, you are there with them. It really is a life in the day of, and we follow her broken family. She wants to find a place where she belongs, and home has not been that for her. In fact, the US Army has been more of a home to her than her home has. And so you can see that she's a fish out of water in her own home, but meeting this new guy, this mechanic, as the friendship blossoms, you're like, yeah, it starts feeling like she could find a place again. And then there's this other draw of the US Army still calling her, and so you have all these threads that the story is pulling on, but really it's just a look at like a day in the life of. It doesn't kind of steer away from that. There isn't any big action set pieces, there isn't any massive drama. There is just this thing that happened, and now you get to experience this thing that happened. Much like her take on Made, you get to experience the drama of what life brings, and often life is more dramatic than any film. So I thought this was a really interesting way to go. It is phenomenally performed. Both Jennifer Lawrence and Brian Henry are fantastic in this. Amazingly directed, very real, very visceral. I'm gonna give this 4 Nicolas Cages out of 5.
You got one.
I enjoyed it. I don't know if I would go back to it. Maybe in a few years I'll go back to it and going, yeah, it's not quite like Silver Linings Playbook is something that I would go back to occasionally because it has a levity to it, to this. There really isn't any levity. It is enjoyable, and there are moments I really enjoy and loved seeing, but that's okay. You do get films that are one-time watches. Sometimes you may go back to them many years later, but for now, this is like, yeah, I'll watch this once. It's still a great film, well put together. The performances are excellent. The nuances of the emotions that these two give are very real. None of it feels like they're acting. It rather feels like they are characters. That we've just caught a documentary snapshot and the camera's been on these people. It's that sort of performance. So let me know your thoughts down below. Thanks so much for watching, but most of all, until next time, remember, live long and Tuesday.